This rifle could place a bullet exactly where its shooter wanted, even across a battlefield. Precise, reliable, feared. And yet, in the very same war, it was already obsolete. The Kar98k became a symbol of German military power, and at the same time a symbol of how quickly war can outgrow even the finest engineering. By the middle of World War II, the rifle praised for its accuracy was being overwhelmed by a world of faster, closer, more chaotic combat. A 5-round bolt-action rifle, facing a storm of automatics. The weapon didn't change, the war did. This is the story of how the Wehrmacht's favorite rifle became its most insufficient one. And why this legendary weapon, despite its brilliance, simply couldn't keep up with the battlefield it was thrown into. To understand how it failed, we first need to understand why it was adored. Chapter 1. The Making of a Legend. The story of the Kar98k doesn't begin in World War II. It begins in the aftermath of the first one. Germany needed a new rifle, shorter, handier, faster to bring on target than the long Gewehr 98. The result was the Karabiner 98 Kurz, the short Mauser, a refined evolution of a proven design, the same legendary Mauser action, tightened, polished, perfected. German doctrine valued precision. Every soldier was trained to make every shot count. And the Kar98k reflected that philosophy completely. Solid steel, oiled walnut, and engineering built for accuracy above all else. It was reliable in mud, in snow, in sand, a rifle that almost never failed its shooter. By the late 1930s, as the Wehrmacht rose from the ashes of the old army, this rifle became the backbone of its new identity. Recruits drilled endlessly with it. Bolt, aim, fire, reload, until the movements were reflexes. Early in the war, the Kar98k was everything Germany needed. Against outdated rifles in Poland and France, it wasn't a weakness, it was an advantage. But the war Germany entered in 1939 was not the war it would be fighting just a few years later. And soon, the battlefield would change faster than the Kar98k or its doctrine could keep up. Chapter 2. When war outgrew the bolt action. War was transforming, and it was transforming fast. The open fields and long firing lines of early campaigns gave way to something far more violent. Street fighting, factory assaults, close quarters chaos. Stalingrad, Kharkov, the ruins of every Eastern Front city. In this new environment, rate of fire mattered more than precision. Volume of fire became the difference between pushing forward or being overrun. And suddenly, the Kar98k, the rifle built for careful, controlled shooting, had to survive in a world of automatic weapons. The Soviet PPSH-41 could unleash over 900 rounds per minute. American infantry carried the M1 Garand, a semi-automatic rifle that fired as fast as a man could pull the trigger. Meanwhile, German soldiers still worked a bolt. 5 rounds. Cycle, aim, fire. In open terrain, this wasn't catastrophic. But in a collapsing building, a trench, a dark stairwell, it was a fatal disadvantage. And the war kept accelerating. What began as a masterpiece of engineering was now being asked to fight a kind of battle it was never designed for. Chapter 3. The Limits of the Bolt Action. The Kar98k wasn't a bad rifle, far from it. Its limitations came from the simple reality of its design. At its heart, it was still a bolt-action weapon, a system that demanded a pause between every shot. Fire, cycle the bolt, reacquire the target, fire again. For decades, that rhythm defined infantry combat. But in World War II, the rhythm of battle had changed. 5 rounds in the internal magazine, loaded by a single stripper clip. Fast for a bolt action, but painfully slow when the enemy was firing 10 times as many rounds in the same amount of time. The Lee Enfield could hold 10 cartridges and be cycled with incredible speed by trained British soldiers. The M1 Garand could unleash 8 semi-automatic shots in just seconds. But the Kar98k? Its shooter had to break sight picture with every bolt stroke, had to reload after every short string of fire. In long-range engagements, none of this mattered. The rifle was brilliant, accurate, dependable. But wars are not fought where a weapon is strongest. They are fought where it is exposed. And by 1942, the Kar98k was exposed everywhere. Chapter 4. Outgunned. Germany understood the problem. They knew the Kar98k couldn't carry the infantry war forever. They tried to modernize. They experimented. They pushed their industry to create something new. The first answer was the G41, a complex, unreliable semi-automatic that struggled in real combat. Then came the G43, much better, far more practical, but far too late and far too few. And deep inside German workshops, another idea was forming. A rifle unlike anything used before. The MKB-42, the MP-43, the weapon that would become the Sturmgewehr 44. It was everything the frontline troops had been begging for. Select fire, controllable, firing an intermediate cartridge that matched the reality of modern infantry combat. But to produce it in numbers, Germany needed time, materials, industrial capacity they no longer had. The Wehrmacht was drowning in shortages. Steel, fuel, manpower, all consumed faster than factories could replace them. And on top of that, bureaucracy and politics slowed everything. Hitler himself initially rejected the new rifle design, believing it unnecessary. Months were lost, prototypes delayed, production halted. So, while Germany debated, the front burned. The Kar98k stayed in soldiers' hands not because it was the best tool, but because it was the one Germany could still produce, still supply, still field. A masterpiece trapped by its own era. Chapter 5. The rifle that should have replaced it. But even as the Kar98k struggled on the front lines, there was one place where it didn't just survive, it excelled. The rifle that was too slow for storming buildings was nearly perfect for the stillness of a sniper's nest. German armorers selected the most accurate barrels, the tightest actions, the straightest stocks. Then they paired them with high-quality optics, Zeiss, Hensoldt, Kalis, glass so clear that Allied snipers often envied it. The Kar98k's heavy bolt, which slowed frontline troops, became an advantage for marksmen. It locked solidly, it handled powerful ammunition, it delivered consistent, repeatable accuracy. On the Eastern Front, this mattered more than anything. Long sight lines across shattered factories, endless fields of snow, streets where every window could hide death. German snipers turned the Kar98k into a precision instrument, a weapon of patience, discipline, and single, perfect shots. Its reliability meant it could function in mud, in ice, in temperatures that froze other rifles solid. And its 7.92 cartridge hit hard, retaining accuracy and energy even at extreme distances. In this role, the Kar98k found its second life, a rifle outmatched in close combat, but unmatched in the hands of a patient shooter with a good piece of glass. Chapter 6. The Second Life of a Legend. When the war ended, millions of Kar98k rifles were scattered across a ruined continent. But their story didn't end with Germany's surrender. Israel armed its early fighters with captured and converted Kar98ks, a former enemy's weapon becoming the backbone of a new nation's struggle. Nations across the Middle East, Africa, and South America bought them by the crate. Some were used in conflicts through the 1950s, the 60s, even into the 70s. For many armies, the Kar98k was the most reliable, affordable, battle-proven rifle available. Hunters valued them, marksmen prized them, collectors cherished them. Because beneath the scars of war, the core of the rifle remained unchanged, precision engineering in steel and wood. The same smooth bolt, the same powerful cartridge, the same Mauser action that shaped the history of bolt-action rifles. In a world moving rapidly toward semi-automatic and automatic weapons, the Kar98k refused to disappear. It became a symbol, not of failure, but of craftsmanship. A reminder that a weapon can be both outdated and extraordinary. A rifle overtaken by the evolution of war, but carried forward by the quality of its design. This was the paradox of the Kar98k, a legend born in one era and surviving long into another. Chapter 7, Legacy. In the end, the Kar98k was a weapon caught between two worlds. Designed for the marksmanship of the early 20th century, but thrown into the firestorm of a mid-century mechanized war. It was everything Germany wanted in a rifle: accurate, reliable, beautifully engineered. But it was not what the war demanded. Fighting moved faster, closer, louder, more brutal. Automatic weapons reshaped infantry combat, and the Kar98k, for all its qualities, could not reshape itself. Yet a rifle is more than its limitations. It served millions of soldiers. It helped define entire campaigns. It earned respect on every front where it appeared. It became a precision tool for snipers, a dependable weapon for post-war armies, and a collector's icon long after the battles ended. And its Mauser action, the heart of its design, continues to influence rifles even today. The Kar98k was outdated, and it was extraordinary. A masterpiece, outpaced by the war around it. A favorite of the Wehrmacht, and yet its most insufficient weapon. That is the paradox of the Kar98k, and that is its story.